On the docket tonight, the murder case of Mollie Tibbetts. You may recall back in 2018, the summer of 2018, Mollie Tibbetts went missing. Her remains were found a month later in a cornfield, and now we are preparing for her trial. Julie Grant has more.
Brooklyn, Iowa bills itself as the community of flags, a place where you'll find a large display of flags from all 50 states and the 4 branches of the military. It's nestled between 2 brooks, Big Bear Creek and Little Bear Creek, and that's how the town got its name. It was home to Mollie Tibbetts, a student at the University of Iowa. In the summer of 2018, she was on her summer break, and like many of the residents in this rural town, she felt safe enough to go jogging alone. July 18th would be the last time anyone would see her alive. Her mother told the local newspaper that she knew something wasn't right.
She didn't come home, and then we got a call that she didn't go to work the next day. And so I knew something was horribly wrong.
Tibbetts' disappearance sparked one of the largest manhunts in Iowa history and garnered intense media coverage. Her mother was grateful for the support from near and far.
From the collective souls of all of Mollie's family and friends, the efforts that have been put in from the people in this town, in this county, in this state, in this country, and across the world. We appreciate every act that has been bestowed upon us.
The body of 20-year-old Mollie Tibbetts was found in a cornfield about a month after she disappeared. Autopsy results show she was stabbed to death. During the search for her, police interviewed and searched the vehicles and properties of 4 men. One was a neighbor of Tibbetts who washed his car hours after she disappeared. Another man was an acquaintance who erased his cell phone data. The third was a Nebraska man who ditched a vehicle nearby. And the fourth was a farmer with a history of stalking women. Then in mid-August, investigators focused on 25-year-old Christian Bahena Rivera. Rivera was linked to a vehicle seen on surveillance video that appeared to be stalking Tibbetts while she was jogging. Rivera is a native of Mexico and suspected of living illegally in the U.S. since he was a teenager. Police picked up Rivera on August 20th, 2018, from the dairy farm where he worked and questioned him for several hours. Investigators say Rivera eventually led them to the cornfield where they found Tibbetts' body.
It's right in the middle of the cornfield. He told us that's where we would find her. After that second set of instructions from him, she was found within a few minutes.
But Rivera's attorneys disputed the voluntariness of his confession. One of the officers admitting making an honest mistake by not reading him all of his rights pursuant to Miranda versus Arizona. After a contentious suppression hearing, the judge ruled some of Rivera's statements are inadmissible, but the evidence leading them to Tibbetts' body comes in, as does other statements Rivera made after being completely advised of his rights. Rivera is set to go on trial on a charge of first-degree murder.
So what will this trial be like? How do you defend someone who's in this position? Well, we're going to bring in a guest who knows exactly how to do that. You will recognize her from a prior trial here on CourtTV. Joining us is Nicole Watt, Assistant Public Defender. She's in Waterloo, Iowa, and was involved in the Cheyenne Harris case that you saw here on CourtTV. Nicole, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start here. This is a case where I'm from the outside looking in and I say, wow, and I'm a former prosecutor, but I say, look, it looks like we've got some great evidence here. Someone can put his vehicle there, and then the only reason investigators find Mollie Tibbetts' remains are because he leads investigators there. Is there any way for the defense to explain that and raise a doubt around that fact? To me, that seems to be almost an insurmountable mountain in this case for the defense.
Well, what I was reading in, I guess, one of the articles or one of the filings I had read was that the officer testified under inevitable discovery, they would have found the body with or without what he told them. And so that would seem to indicate that they already had other information. And so it is still possible that the confession was somehow coerced after so many hours of being interrogated. people, just give in, say whatever they need to say because they think they'll go home. And so I think that's where the defense would have to go with that.
How much time do you think the defense is going to spend on those other 4 suspects? And these were, and they've all been cleared by law enforcement, right? But they seemed very suspicious at the time. I've read some of the details with that. How much time does the defense spend pointing the finger in 4 different directions? Or do you think they'll just focus on one maybe? Or how do you handle that?
It would be really tricky, I guess, if you wanted to try and say somebody else did it, because then you're kind of accepting your own burden of proof as the defense and saying, here, it wasn't us, but we'll prove to you who did it, when that's not what their role is. And that would be kind of dangerous, I think, because then the jury is going to put that burden on the defense to show who it really was, when that may not be possible. And so the greater strategy might just lie in the lack of evidence against the defendant here, and the fact that the confession was coerced, and I don't even know that they have a murder weapon or anything like that that actually links him to the crime aside from the confession.
Okay, jurors in Iowa. How would you describe them to someone from the outside? How would you describe how juries see cases out there?
I think it depends on what county you're in. And I think this one is being tried in a less rural county. And so I think they might be, more accepting, because some of the rural counties, I think, would look very quickly at this person as an illegal immigrant and not want to hear anything that he has to say or his defense has to say. But the chances might be better in a more populated county like it's going to be tried in, I think, is Scott County.
Do you think there's any chance, and I don't think so, but do you think there's any chance that he testifies in this case?
I don't know how he would, because I think if he did, then that would swing the door open for anything that was suppressed. Suddenly he can be cross-examined with those. So that would, again, be really dangerous. And also considering the fact they wanted to produce an affidavit at the motion to suppress rather than have him testify because they didn't want him to be cross-examined, that would suggest they're very scared of what he would say if he were cross-examined.
And this was such a high-profile case. I mean, national headlines when Mollie disappeared, and obviously a desperate search for her. How do you think all of that impacts jurors in Iowa?
I don't know how they're going to get a fair trial no matter what county they take it to. It's made statewide, nationwide news. Everybody has heard of this case. There's going to be questionnaires sent out to the people to try and figure out if they know anything about the case, and I don't see how anybody doesn't, personally. But that's going to make it very difficult because people have seen a lot in the news about this. They've made a lot of judgment calls already, and it's going to be hard to overcome that. And some of the evidence, I think, is hard to overcome as well. Let's not forget that, Nicole, right? There is some good evidence. Right. Nicole, great to catch up with you. Great to see you again. Thanks so much for coming on tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, folks, we are tracking this one. Let's take a look at the next court date. We've got a pretrial hearing January 12th, 2021. Look at that. Of all the cases that we've been tracking so far, this one has the closest trial date so far. January 25th, 2021 is the trial date for this case, the Mollie Tibbetts murder trial, Iowa versus Christian Rivera. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. When we come back, another case out of Michigan, quadruple murder. What was the motive? What happened to the defendant? How did he end up in the hospital? Michael Ayala will join us with all the details when we come back.